When you think of the Trojan War, you probably think of huge battles, right? A decade-long siege, epic heroes. But what if I told you the single most important moment, the one that almost destroyed the entire Greek army, wasn't a battle at all? Nope, it was an argument. Just an absolutely explosive fight fueled by pride, and it unleashed a fury so legendary, we're still talking about it thousands of years later. And here's the wild part. When Homer kicks off the Iliad, he doesn't start with the 1,000 ships or the heroes. He starts with one feeling, one single, all-consuming emotion, rage. The rage of Achilles. So right away you know this isn't just a war story. It's really an examination, almost like an autopsy, of anger itself. It's about how the wounded pride of just one man can push an entire army to the absolute brink. All right, so how does this all kick off? Let's set the scene. The Greeks have been stuck outside Troy for 9 long years. Can you imagine? Morale is just shot. And to make things worse, there's a new enemy in the camp, something they can't fight with a sword. It's a plague, and it's killing them off. And the cause of this plague? Well, it all comes down to the arrogance of one guy, Agamemnon, the leader of the Greeks. See, a priest of the god Apollo, an old man, comes to the camp. He offers a massive ransom to get his captured daughter back. Any sane leader would take the deal, right? But not Agamemnon. Oh no, he's so full of himself, so blinded by his power, that he doesn't just say no, he threatens and humiliates the old priest. And that one act of disrespect is the tiny spark that's about to set the whole thing on fire. Well, you don't disrespect a priest of Apollo and get away with it. The god himself hears that prayer. Homer's description is just chilling. He says Apollo comes down from Olympus, furious, like the night itself. He sits away from the Greek ships, and then you hear it, this terrible twang of the silver bow. For 9 straight days, he just rains down these invisible arrows of plague. First they hit the animals, then they start hitting the men. The funeral pyres are burning nonstop. The Greek army is literally being destroyed, not by Trojan spears, but by their own commander's ego. And this leads us to a word you've got to know to understand this story: hubris. It's not just regular pride. It's a toxic, reckless arrogance. It's when you think you're so important, so high and mighty that the normal rules don't apply to you. You think you're even above the gods. What Agamemnon did to that priest, that wasn't just bad leadership. That was a perfect textbook example of hubris. And in these old Greek stories, hubris always gets punished. No exceptions. So with the plague absolutely wrecking the army, they have to do something. They all get together, and a prophet stands up and basically points the finger right at Agamemnon. He says, "It's your fault." So Agamemnon, cornered, agrees to give the priest's daughter back. But, and this is a huge but, he says he needs to be compensated. He's going to take someone else's war prize. And guess whose prize he picks? Yep, Achilles. And this is the moment everything just explodes. This really gets to the heart of the whole problem. You've got 2 gigantic egos clashing, for sure, but it's also about 2 different kinds of honor. For Agamemnon, his honor comes from his title. He's the king. For Achilles, his honor comes from what he can do. It's earned on the battlefield because he is, without a doubt, the greatest warrior alive. So when Agamemnon decides to take Achilles' prize, this woman Briseis, he's not just taking something from him. He is publicly, in front of everyone, trying to strip Achilles of his honor to prop up his own authority. It's a massive slap in the face. And Achilles just loses it. He goes off, calling Agamemnon every name in the book: shameless, greedy, a coward who hides behind the lines while real men do the fighting. And then he drops the bombshell. He's done. He and his men are not going to fight for a king like that anymore. This isn't him quietly packing his bags. This is a loud, furious, public rebellion. You'd think Agamemnon might back down, right? Nope, he doubles down. He actually sends his guys over to Achilles' tent to physically drag Briseis away. The poem even says she went with them completely unwillingly. For Achilles, this is the final straw. It's not about politics anymore, it's a deep personal humiliation. Taking away this symbol of his worth in front of the whole army, it's a wound that goes right to his soul. And just like that, poof, the Greeks have lost their #1 weapon, their ultimate weapon. The one guy the Trojans are absolutely terrified of is now sitting in his tent, refusing to fight. And let me tell you, the consequences of this are going to be fast, and they're going to be brutal. But wait, it gets even messier. Because this little argument between 2 guys is about to go cosmic. See, Achilles doesn't just sit there and pout. He decides to escalate. He takes his complaint to the highest authority you can possibly imagine. And in doing so, he drags the gods of Olympus right down into this human mess. So Achilles walks down to the shore and prays to his mom, who happens to be a sea goddess named Thetis. And you won't believe what he asks for. He doesn't ask for Agamemnon to be struck by lightning. No, he asks for something so much worse. He tells his mom to go to Zeus, the king of all gods, and ask him to let the Trojans start winning. To let his own side, the Greeks, get absolutely slaughtered on the battlefield, just until they're so beaten down that they have to come crawling back on their knees, begging him to fight and give him his honor back. It's petty and devastating on a grand scale. And the craziest thing? Zeus agrees to do it. This decision basically starts a civil war on Mount Olympus. Hera and Athena, who hate the Trojans with a passion, are furious. Apollo was already on Troy's side. All of a sudden, the war on the ground has a mirror image up in the heavens with all these gods scheming and picking sides. But Zeus, he puts his foot down. He flies out to a mountain overlooking Troy and lays down the law. He tells the other gods, nobody interferes. I've got this. He's going to personally oversee this next phase of the war to keep his promise to Achilles' mom. In other words, he is going to make sure the Greeks feel every single ounce of pain from Achilles being gone. So now you've got Achilles refusing to fight, and the king of the gods actively working against the Greeks. As you can imagine, the tide of the war turns, and it turns fast. The Greeks are about to get a very, very painful lesson in just how much they depended on one single warrior. And as the Trojans start winning, Homer does something brilliant. He takes us inside the walls of Troy. We get this heartbreaking scene of the Trojan hero Hector saying goodbye to his wife and their baby boy. It's just so human. It reminds you that these are real people on both sides. And it creates this incredible contrast, right? You've got Hector fighting out of duty for his city and his family. And then you've got Achilles sitting on the sidelines because his feelings got hurt. The Greek collapse is swift and it is total. I mean, almost the second Achilles is out of the picture, the Greeks start getting pushed back. Fights they would have easily won before now turn into bloody slaughters. The Trojans, led by Hector, who's feeling pretty good about himself, just surge forward. They push the Greeks all the way back to the wall they built to protect their own ships. So naturally, Agamemnon starts to panic. He sends a delegation over to Achilles' tent with this insane offer. We're talking gold, cities, marriage to his daughter, and he'll give Briseis back. But he never actually says I'm sorry, and Achilles turns it all down flat. His reason is so powerful. He says he hates a man who thinks one thing and says another. It's not about the stuff anymore, it's about trust. You can't buy back honor with gold. And that rejection from Achilles, it's basically a death sentence for a lot of Greek soldiers. Their last hope is gone. Hector and the Trojans, they see their opening. This is it. Their chance to win the whole war right here, right now. So they launch a massive, all-out attack on the Greek wall. Hector, man, with Zeus backing him up, he's like a different person. He's not just a warrior anymore. He's like a force of nature, a hurricane of bronze and fury, just smashing through the Greek lines. And the Greeks, with no Achilles to rally behind, they're helpless. They can't do a thing to stop him. The situation is just, it's beyond desperate. The Greek defenses are literally falling apart. The wall is being torn down, the gates are breaking, and morale, it's hit rock bottom. They're about to be pushed right back into the ocean. This is it, the moment of total catastrophic failure. And the way Homer describes the fighting here, it's just brutal, so visceral. He says men are being ripped from the top of the wall and falling like a diver to the ground. This isn't glorious, shiny armor combat. This is a nasty, bloody, desperate fight for survival, right on the edge of complete destruction. And then, the final blow. Hector, filled with this godlike strength, picks up a boulder so huge it would take 2 normal men just to budge it, and he hurls it at the main gate. The whole thing just shatters, hinges, bars, everything. And just like that, the path into the Greek camp, right to the ships, is wide open. So this is where we're left, at the absolute lowest point you can imagine for the Greeks. Their defenses are gone, their ships are vulnerable, and the Trojans are flooding in with torches, ready to burn the entire Greek expedition to ash. And it all happened because of one man's pride and another man's rage. So the question is, with their best warriors sulking and their camp on fire, how in the world could they possibly survive this?